Awesome John 22 coming at you today with another review, and today we are taking a look at, I think, one of the best figures out there from pretty much any line ever. We will get to that later, for many different reasons, not necessarily all of them because of this figure itself, but again, we'll get to that later. Transformers Animated Leader Class Bulkhead, who you can see here in his robot mode. But, any of the things I could say about this mode, I want to wait until after we have gotten him transformed, which means we must first get him transformed into his vehicle mode through the magic of jump cuts. And here we have Transformers Animated Leader Class Bulkhead transformed up into his vehicle mode, and as you can see, just like his robot was clearly kind of an armied up version of his on-screen robot mode, his vehicle mode is just kind of an armied up version of his on-screen vehicle mode, and rolls really well, despite the fact that the wheels can actually sometimes come out of alignment with each other, which is a little annoying. And he does have sound and light effects, which I will show off in this mode right now. And those do continue on after a few seconds after you take your finger off of this Autobot symbol button here, just one more time. You can see they fade out pretty quickly. The sound more quickly than the lights, which is a little annoying, but not too bad. There we go, lights are back to normal. Overall, in terms of detail, you can see molded in door, really cool. Painted on star, really cool gold on these missiles. You do have the clear red plastic for the lights and for the Autobot symbol, as well as a clear plastic here in his, I guess it's his windshield. Yeah, I guess that would have to be his windshield, wouldn't it? It's just kind of odd looking. Great gold paint on all the forward lights, as well as not silver paint, but this kind of silver flake gray plastic for his front grille. The green's really cool. It looks almost flake, like metal flake too, but it's not quite. It has a sheen to it that isn't due to paint, because this is just the straight up plastic color. He's got all these rivets molded in. Bring it in a little bit so you can see him a little bit better. Even has some silver paint. Yeah, silver paint in his rims there. And overall, a pretty cool looking figure in this mode. His little gun turret's up here on the top, which does hide his head. That's why it's there, just so you know. They do move, like so. Excuse me. Up and down on both sides, which is pretty nifty. And now I'm gonna freak out because they're not straight, because I have OCD and I need help. Now, overall, very cool, very dynamic, very large. I don't have any Transformers in vehicle mode prepared to show off the size, but here he is next to a couple of robot mode Voyager class figures. You can see he is quite large next to them. Just a big and bulky vehicle, as you would imagine for a character named Bulkhead. In terms of other functions, his missiles can remove, but they don't shoot, obviously. You just kind of have to play act them firing. Which is a nice touch. They could have just glued those in there and not had them removable, which is also a nice touch for people who want to make this guy look as much like his on-screen counterpart as possible, because these missiles are clearly not on that character. But I do still believe this is the better option for animated Bulkhead, which I will get to that more after the transformation, which begins right now. And he does have a transformation sound gimmick, which we'll do that several times during the course of this transformation, most likely. I apologize in advance. First, we're going to pop this up, which is kind of difficult. And we're going to split this, which you will almost inevitably pop one or both of these off, but they pop right back in on little friction joints. And just kind of leave them like that for now. And zoom out, I can't zoom out anymore. It's going to be kind of tricky because he's so large. Next, what we're going to do, we're just going to take one finger and or thumb under each side of this just pop it up like so. If now understand, if this guy hasn't been transformed in a while, that can stick very easily and it gets kind of difficult. It did when I was like relearning the transformation in preparation for this video. Just FYI, it's once you get it worked out, it's not that difficult. See, you can see it's just on a different angle now. It's kind of separated from back here. Once you get that it kind of worked loose, it's not that big a deal. Nothing's going to break or anything. Don't worry about that. But just fair warning, it can be kind of difficult if you haven't transformed the figure in a while. Next, what we're actually going to do is we're going to come down to the bottom here. We're going to pop his legs loose. They do clip in via these clips here, via slots on the bottoms of the feet. We are going to pop these down and bring them down into position like so, more or less. Next, we're going to come down here and we are going to pop this section loose. As you can see, there's this green section here which was lowered like so and is now straight down. And what that does is it allows this spring-loaded post to pop up into place. Next, we're going to fold his front two wheels in, and then we're going to lower this down so that it clips onto the end of that post. And that will just lower his, I guess, pelvic area down enough so that it is in the right position. You can already see how this is kind of going. There's his lower body, and there's what we have his upper body so far. And it's not that difficult to figure out how this is going to go. So what I like to do next, if I would actually show you, is kind of move these back in a little bit just to get them out of the way. And then take these two panels here, bring them up like so, which exposes what is the inside of his shoulder. Next, I bring this up and just kind of separate these panels like so, so that this is all free. Rotate this around like so, then bring this around and it will clip in like so, and there is one of his arms in place. On the other side, we're just going to do the same thing. We're just going to pop that loose, rotate this, bring this around, clip it in, lower this down, and now both of his arms are in place. And now what we're going to do next, hopefully without popping one of the missiles out, is we are going to rotate these missile assemblies a full 180 degrees so that they are pointing forward once he raises his arm like so. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the back here. We're going to take the wheels here and fold them up. And we're going to take this whole assembly, slide it up. I'm really astonished that didn't set off the transformation noise, because it has on every other occasion. And then we're going to fold this down, which exposes this little peg slot here, which you can see there is a peg there. Lower this down, peg it in, bring these panels down, and you can see they're actually molded to fit over these hinges on the shoulder assemblies. Next, we're going to come here and just split this back section, which I forgot to mention has a molded in door, and rotate it up to create his kibble. His very famous on-screen kibble, which you can technically use to make a chair for him, but it doesn't quite fold down far enough for it to work, so I don't really count it, because this is obviously the kibble that he uses on the show to transform part of his body into a chair so he can sit down. You can see it does have this little post that kind of clips into that gap there to show you where to stop rotating them. And then what you do is you rotate these out as far as they'll go, then bring this down and slot them over these pieces to hide them from view, since they don't actually fold away anywhere. And I think that's the first truly successful transformation of an overly large figure on my channel, where I didn't have to reposition the camera a bunch of times because I wasn't actually getting things in frame. So, you know, bravo me. Yay. Anyway, I really wish I still had my Headmaster unit, which I mentioned in my Leader Class animated Megatron review. I believe I should have. It actually came with this guy, whereas it was just compatible with Megatron. It was meant to go with this guy. He does have additional voice effects for the Headmaster, but as I mentioned, I believe I mentioned it in my Megatron review. I lost it a long time ago, which, hey, look, I lost an accessory. That's, never happened before. Secret, it has a lot. But no, that's the only accessory I lost. I didn't lose any of his missiles, thankfully. And you may be noticing right off the bat that those missiles are very obtrusive and really detract from the look and make him look very different than his on-screen counterpart. You can kind of fix that by rotating his arms like so, which is actually how you have to rotate them for his elbows to work. Which is fine because his hands don't really have a proper orientation to them. As you can see, they're kind of these grabby claws, and this saw blade that replaces his wrecking ball in this version, and that looks better, I think. That's typically how I have his arms posed more. But I kind of figure this is kind of akin to the Elite Guard Bumblebee. This is kind of Bulkhead upgrade, kind of Bulkhead super mode or whatever. Him with hypothetical changes and upgrades and promotions and whatnot. And let's keep adjusting these because my OCD demands it. Overall, despite the differences from the on-screen counterpart, this guy just looks really good. I mean, geez, guys, look at that. It's fantastic. It just screams Bulkhead so much. And he does have different lights and sounds in this mode than he did in the other one, so let's go ahead and take a look at those.
Time for the big guns! You can do it, buddy. Sorry, my bad.
And I'm not sure, that might be all. One more, let's see.
Time for the big guns!
Yeah, so that's all of them, just the 3 voice clips, and they are voice clips straight from the show. You can see the lights are pretty cool. I mean, with the lights off like this,
You can do it, buddy.
you can really clearly see where the LEDs are, and they're showing through the plastic here rather than just shining through his optics, which is a little annoying. For the most part, it's not bad. Now we've got our lights back. Yeah, there's not a whole lot more to say about this guy. He looks really great. Transformation's a lot of fun. It's not overly complicated or overly simple. He's really dusty on the inside of that panel, so please just ignore that. You already saw his elbow articulation, and you saw he clearly has bicep swivel up and down at the shoulder, and full 360 at the shoulder as well. Though I would have to move this cable to do it, and I just don't want to deal with that with my horrible, horrible OCD that I'm just going to keep complaining about because I can. In terms of his legs, he has mostly a full range of motion, but I mean, they're just so short, you're not going to be posing them much. And sadly, due to the nature of the transformation and of the surprisingly unobtrusive electronic gimmick, all things considered, he doesn't have proper head articulation. You can just kind of wiggle it back and forth like this, and it's all spring-loaded and whatnot. And he doesn't have any waist articulation either, but this guy looks dangerous and imposing enough without being all posed up. I don't really think it's that big a deal. Though I will admit it does bother me a bit. But just like with his Transformers Prime counterpart over here, who you can see is actually surprisingly not that much shorter than him despite the difference in size class. They're designed to be these big bulky static bodyguard-esque bruiser type characters, so having tons and tons of articulation I don't feel is really necessary in this case. So I don't know, despite that his articulation is kind of lackluster, I give it a pass. And I feel like, that's really the only thing you guys could do too, because this really is the better version of Bulkhead. I don't have the Voyager class version, but let me put it this way. The Voyager class version of Bulkhead, despite looking more aesthetically like the on-screen counterpart than this guy does, is tiny. It's smaller than some of the animated deluxes. And we will get to this exact problem when I do my review of animated, what was his name, Lugnut, the big purple bruiser guy for the Decepticons, who had the exact same problem. He was a character who flared wide rather than tall when you transformed him. And so, despite the fact that his Voyager class figure was a good size in vehicle mode. Not a great size, he was kind of small, but a good size. His robot mode actually seemed to shrink. He's pretty much the opposite of this guy, as is Bulkhead, Voyager class Bulkhead, which, let me put it this way, I didn't follow Animated, the show, or the toy line immediately after it started being released. I got started on it pretty late. But even if I had, I would have passed up Voyager class Bulkhead for this guy. It's just embarrassing how small they are. And to prove that this guy has a great scale, here he is with his leader, Animated Optimus Prime. And you can see Animated Optimus Prime as a Voyager class is a very large Voyager class. He's one of the larger Voyager class figures, as you can again see next to Bulkhead, who is very much smaller, and it's kind of embarrassing. This guy feels more like an intermediary between a leader class and a Voyager class toy than a straight up Voyager class toy. And Bulkhead, I mean, this is a good scale. Look at that. Despite that he is a full size class larger, he looks in scale with Optimus Prime. He looks like he should be standing here next to Optimus Prime. They look good together. And as I do more animated reviews, I will bring in this guy and this guy to compare with those other figures as size comparisons to show you and kind of reiterate why I feel that this is the better Bulkhead figure. It works so much better in the grand scheme of the toy line that I can overlook the arm panels, and I can overlook the different weapon and the military insignia and the rivets and the things that are different. I can overlook that because he looks so good with everybody else. And so if you are a fan of Animated, maybe you didn't pick up a lot of the toys, maybe you're just getting into the series now and want to go back and remedy the situation, this is the Bulkhead I would be looking for. He is worlds above the other one, and now I kind of wish I did own the other one so I could show that off. But you're going to have to take my word for it this time, guys. This is just the better option. So go with him if at all possible. Unless you're super worried about him being in scale with Lugnut, because while Bulkhead was a popular enough figure to warrant a size class upgrade, Lugnut sadly wasn't. So we are stuck with his severely undersized Voyager class version, and therefore you can't get any good dynamic action scenes between Bulkhead and Lugnut if you use this Bulkhead. So if that's a concern, you know, go with your own judgment. But overall, I would say this Bulkhead is definitely worth a pickup, even today. Absolutely outstanding figure, with a couple of minor flaws that don't bother me because of how good he is otherwise, which tends to be the norm for the Transformers animated line. So it's really not much of a surprise. But guys, that's really it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it, because I certainly enjoyed making it. It would really help me out if you would like and subscribe and leave a comment down below if you feel so inclined. In the description down below, you'll find links to all the stuff I'm working on right now. Please check that out, and let me know what you think. This has been Awesome John 22, and I will talk to you guys later.